Time for the 49ers Rush Podcast.
We have reached the demarcation line on the 49ers roster countdown for 2023. Number 53, this is how many spots that can make the active roster. Now, when we did this voting system, we had 5 executive producers voting 1 through 91, ranking them all with an accumulative score. And then number 53, the versatile, high upside linebacker from the undrafted free agent class of last year, Marcelino McCrary-Ball. He was number 88 last year. Now he's 53, jumped considerably. And he's fun because with a lot of the linebackers, they have carved out roles. If you look at Curtis Robinson, he's a backup Mike. You look at D. Winters, backup Will. You look at Jalen Graham, backup Sam. Marcelino McCrary-Ball, he's got the positional versatility at the linebacker position to back up all 3. So, linebacker, number 40. Now, I do have to say thank you to Josh, the 49ers guru. Just absolute great work, doing all this background work. Now, here's what's interesting. Marcelino McCrary-Ball at his pro day was 6'2", 215. That is tiny for a linebacker. That is close to the height and weight that the 49ers like for their defensive backs. Now, if you've seen pictures recently of Marcelino McCrary-Ball, he does not look like he's 250 pounds. I would say 225 on the small side, perhaps even more. He has added a lot of weight and a lot of muscle. He is jacked. Now, 31 and 7/8 arms, pretty short arms, 24 years old. Now, he was a 6-year player at Indiana, but he was a 17-year-old true freshman that started 12 games at Indiana. So, it's interesting because he's got the experience, he's got the playing time, but man, he's just so young. He's only 24 still. Ran a 4.51 40-yard dash, which is incredible for a linebacker. No issues there. Speed is top-notch, and that's one of the reasons why, man, you can play him at Sam, you can play him at Will, you can play him at Mike. I think he fits across the board. 3-cone, 7.03. Good change of direction. That's good for a wide receiver. 35.5-inch vertical, 10-foot, 1-inch broad jump. That's great. 23 bench press reps. Strong as hell, and he's only gotten stronger going into his second season. Now, the Niners have been high on this guy from the start. Last year, he was the highest paid undrafted free agent for the entire 49ers UDFAs last year. They love this guy. Comes out of Georgia, Roswell High School in Georgia, the Fighting Hornets. Graduated when he was at Indiana with a liberal studies degree, and it's interesting for several reasons. One of the reasons why I think the Niners love him so much, he was a team captain for not 1 but 2 seasons at Indiana. Again, 17-year-old freshman that started 12 games, that's rare. In the Big Ten, I know Indiana's not a national powerhouse by any stretch, but this dude's playing against first-round draft picks nonstop. He played against, I guess he was on the same field, but, Nick Bosa, he was playing against Ohio State whenever they were there, and he's played against a lot of top-tier talent. So, because that was back in 2016 that he was a 17-year-old freshman starting. Now, All-American, honorable mention, all Big Ten. He's got all the awards. He's got them all. He was a defensive back for head coach John Ford at Roswell High School, very prominent program down there in Georgia. And he's got the family pedigree. Listen to this. Brother Marcus was an NFL defensive back, played at the University of Memphis. Reggie Jr., another brother, NFL wide receiver, played at Georgia Tech. And Rayshawn, a defensive back at the University of Tennessee, Chattanooga. So you got a family of athletes, athleticism's there, and I just think there's an expectation for him to carve out a role somewhere. When you lose somebody like Azeez Al-Shaair, who was incredible. This guy is the clearest of clear Azeez prototype, not replacements, I don't want to say that, but he's following that exact same mold. Undrafted free agent, can play multiple spots because Azeez was the Sam linebacker, but also backed up the Mike. And I think that's exactly what you can get from Marcelino McCrary-Ball. And that's what he was, if he's been versatile since day one. He played the Husky position at Indiana, which was the safety linebacker hybrid, very similar to Jalen Graham, very similar to what Fred Warner did, very similar to what Azeez Al-Shaair did. Like, he fits that mold. And so you can look at those things and say, man, this kid has multiple swings at making this 49ers roster. If he loses the Mike backup job to Curtis Robinson, well, guess what? He can compete for the Sam spot. Can he be a special teams ace? There's lots of ways for him to find his way onto this roster, and the Niners love him. Now, let's talk about his accumulative career stats at Indiana. It's impressive what he did in college. 241 career tackles, 5.5 career sacks, 16.5 tackle for losses, 4 picks, 1 forced fumble, 1 fumble recovery, 17 pass breakups. If you want to know why this pathway, why the Niners like him, he fits the mold of supremely talented coverage skills at the linebacker position. The Niners covet that more than almost any team in the NFL. Look at Fred Warner, best coverage linebacker in the NFL. Can't even argue that. Look at you look at who's next to him, and Dre Greenlaw. He developed that, but now, back-to-back years, Dre Greenlaw's been great versus the pass game. And that's exactly what Marcelino McCrary-Ball brings as a former safety. That's what he is. Now, he has had some injuries. His sophomore year in college had season-ending ACL injury, and so that's rough. Senior year, guess what? Another ACL injury. So those are the concerns and why he probably wasn't drafted. Plus, he's smaller. Let's just be real. He's got an NFL developmental body, which I think has gone well in year 2. You look at him and you say, yep, that is a freaking NFL linebacker. He is jacked. But the injuries, undersized, he's a little bit of a tweener. And it took a team that was willing to say, man, we're going to redshirt you for a year and develop you into what we want. Now it's time to put up. That's just the way it goes. And I think that they like him so much. You know, the Niners did draft 2 linebackers this year, but I don't think either one of them are really in contention with what Marcelino McCrary-Ball brings, and that's versatility. Now, he played in 3 preseason games, all 3 preseason games with the 49ers last year in 2022. Played okay. PFF scores, not so much. This is Marcelino McCrary-Ball's PFF scores from the preseason last year. 45.9 overall, wasn't ready. 50.7 run defense, wasn't ready. 59.4 pass rush, okay. Aggressiveness there. 48.4 coverage, not ready. He did get an interception in one of the preseason games, 8 tackles, 2 solo snaps, but 42 special team snaps. And I think that's what's important. You look at the games played at the college level, 53. Started 44 of those. He's got experience. He's just got to take that next step. And the competition at you've got your starters, Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw, and I think Oren Burks. Those guys are making the roster almost no matter what. But then you get all these guys behind him. And again, the question goes to, is he just a Fred Warner backup? Because if he is, he's got to beat out Curtis Robinson. That's number one. If he's versatile, can he beat out guys like Jalen Graham, DFF, for that Sam spot? And then special teams. He's got the pathway. He's got the experience. He's got the moxie. He's a captain. He's a locker room fit. Fits with the guys. Now it's time to put up or shut up. That's just what it is. Because you don't want to be behind the 8 ball. If he loses these competitions, you have young bucks ahead of you now, right? He's in this group, and I think he fits at the top of the list when you're talking about guys like Curtis Robinson and even Jalen Graham, who they drafted this year. D. Winters, I don't even think they're in any competition whatsoever. D. Winters is a will linebacker only, and I don't think that's the best fit for Marcelino McCrary-Ball. I think he's a Mike or a Sam. So we'll see how it goes. I'm excited to see. A lot of people are charting him as one of their favorite sleepers on this roster, and I completely understand why. So Marcelino McCrary-Ball, we're in your corner. Excited to see what you can do this year. I think he makes the roster and is a special team stud that can back up not 1, but 2 linebacker positions. Excited to see what he can bring.